Hey guys, it's Ryan Feathers Elite Pigeon Auctions. I am here in San Diego, California, the hotbed of pigeon racing, and this is real pigeon racing. The grounds, the weather is fantastic. The desert's difficult. The mountains are scary, and the pigeons that come out of here will breed you good pigeons to go anywhere, not just in America, anywhere in the world. Pattaya, Kuwait, you will see the results. You'll see when you see in pigeon pedigrees, California Classic, Royal Cup, San Diego Classic, this is where these pigeons were raced. So I'm going to turn this over to the man that we are here to see, the man who runs the California Classic and the Royal Cup, the one, the only, John Timmerman. All
Hello,
right,
guys.
John.
Yes, sir.
This is one of your babies, eh?
Well, it's a new feature that we added for the week to carry on a tradition, and that's more or less why we did this.
Okay.
I was asked many times to go bigger with the California, but for what we do in San Diego to make something uh, more of an attraction, more to make it better for breeders, that's what we did.
Okay. So this is the Royal Cup loft, and for people wondering, how much does it cost to enter a pigeon? So if I want to send you a pigeon, what is it going to cost me to go into the Royal Cup?
Perch fee for the Royal is for 6 pigeons, it's $1,000.
So I send you 6 pigeons and I send you $1,000 US.
Yes, but here's the kicker: 100 of that goes into the prize fund.
Okay, so 100 of that already comes off into prize money.
So if you break it down, your perch is like 90 bucks.
$90 a bird. Okay, so what's next? What is there another fee that I got to look at?
Entry fee, once these birds complete 100 miles, then it's $400 a bird. We were $500 a bird, but to make things just a little bit more better for the breeder, it's more affordable. We dropped it $100.
So when the birds make it past the 100 miles, what's the payment?
$400.
$400 a bird. So if you have out of your 6 birds, if you have all 6, you pay 400 times 6.
Correct.
Okay, and that's it.
That's it.
That's all, and you're in it. You're in it
You're
from
in it.
start to finish.
You're in it for the start to finish.
So guys, it's 1,000 for 6. Your 6 make it to the 100 miles. They qualify.
For the Royal Cup, we pay out at the 140, the 190, and the 300.
So you're winning. You have 3 shots to win some money.
Correct. We fly a second race here. It used to be called it was called the Iron Eagle, still is, which at the time of entry, you can nominate for $100, or you nominate at, I believe it's $200 a bird
Okay.
after the final. And that's an optional thing, but the Iron Eagle is for a 350.
Okay. So that's different.
Yes, and that was the Iron Eagle. That was in respect to Ron Steinbrenner, who passed away, who ran the Triple Crown. So this particular race was going to kind of format that, which again we mentioned. The San Diego Classic is going to do the Triple Crown. So I might just give him the Iron Eagle name. We'll see. But the Royal Cup was designed after what the Triple Crown was. However, we split it up weekly. A 1, a 2, and a 3.
Okay.
And it's been good. It's a good race. A lot of good pigeons have come out of it. Good breeders, from Aztec Loft to Armando de Leo to one of the big winners, No Limit Loft.
Okay. And just a question for people wondering: they go, $1,000 and $400 activation. Wow, I'm spending a lot of money. Now your prizes. You have some really good prizes here.
Depends on the race.
Okay. In some years, you've paid out. What are the big prizes? What are the small prizes?
When we had a good entry, which at that time I believe it was 700 going to the race. Sheesh, I think it was 200 and two guys. There's a 2-bird drop. They each made 100,000.
All right. And the smaller prizes?
Smaller prizes will go down to like a 40, a 30, 20, 10. And
Okay.
we always pay out 10% of the prizes.
10% of the prizes. So for you guys wondering, you got a shot. You need the handler though to get there, and this is the man. Now, we're looking at the loft. Kind of an L shape, would you call it, or a diamond shape?
It's a diamond shape. Everything was attributed to the land, the
Okay.
lay of the land, and that's how we kind of built.
So this loft is how large?
We have 13 sections. and it's 14 feet deep, and it's 10 foot wide sections,
Okay, 10 foot wide. And so when we
and
come,
and 2 offices on each side.
okay, so these are, I take it, almost like holding pens, like aviaries that the birds can come out of individually.
Correct. They all slide.
Can we see that?
Sure.
Again, you guys are looking at the loft of the Royal Cup here in San Diego.
In the beginning stages, our traps are right here, so all the birds are learning to trap through there. As we get bigger, birds just go through, push down, and we just get them going in, out, back in their section in the evening.
Okay.
When they get older, then it's open. But pigeons, we always push them back into the loft at night.
You always put them in.
Correct.
And pigeons always go in the same sections, pretty much.
Whatever they feel.
Okay.
We give them time to do that. In the beginning, I do have big fly pins. They're just on the other side, but we put them out, and so that way we could get the pigeons going onto the floor and going back and forth playing around. But we
Okay.
do that for 2 months, or not, excuse me, probably 5 weeks, and then once they start going out, that's it. We take those away, and it's just they go out, they go in. That's it.
So before these birds go out on their own, the first ones, they'll be in and out of that aviary, the big settling aviary, for about 5 weeks.
No. Well, as they mature, the beginning phases from quarantine into loft, they're in a section for 5 days, 5 days to a week.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just, again, monitoring that they're eating and drinking before they go into the community. And we try not to overdo the sections. 50 to 75 birds in a section, sometimes 100 when we get towards the tail end. But everybody gets pushed out. They come out through the entrance over there. We do a routine. We teach them to go through that chute, come through. They play around. They could go on the landing board. They could go in. We've got whistles where we tap on the loft. Pigeons all know that's where they go in.
Okay, so pigeons are always going in here, even on race day. This is the spot.
Correct.
This is where the dollars and cents count.
Yes.
And your clocking system is benzene.
Benzene.
And I show you guys this. People will say, well, how are they coming in? Look, very simple.
Yeah, very
Here's how
simple.
this works. So you got the bobs, you got the stall. They go in. There's 4. That
Correct.
work?
Yes.
That's right. This is the finish line.
This is the finish line.
Okay.
Habru, I believe, is the one that designed the traps.
Yeah, I was gonna say those look like Habru traps.
Yeah, and Habru is phenomenal. I wish we had him here. They are actually an aluminum fabricator of cages and aviaries and etc. But no, at the time, yeah, time goes fast, and of course there's probably new systems and all that. But this was one of the top at the time.
And your benzene pads are right in here.
Correct.
Okay, so guys wondering where the pads are, this is where they are. Nice that you close them up, you see. Closed, there's no pad there. Pad is here. Simple.
Yes.
So the pigeons, when you take those settling aviaries off, they get open loft.
I start off with one window coming open,
Okay.
and we slowly go and keep going and going. Eventually, I could open up all these windows, but we focus on here.
Okay.
And then that way we have control of the birds.
So if the birds are living over there, we still come in here.
Yeah, they understand it. They know where the entrance is. They know where to go in and to go out. That's why I said with the whole process of the pigeons, they're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And so you just have to reinforce what you want. Pigeons are smart. You can make them do so many things.
Okay. And you got to put time into this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time. People don't realize the beginning phase. It's probably the hardest part of the job is the whole process of bringing them in, settling. Once you get to where you drop the flights or you pull the flights, excuse me, then it's pretty much okay. We're going to get ready for training. And once you get on the truck, it's still very much time consuming. But at that point, now the birds know what they got to do.
Okay.
And they get better and better. Then I'm referring to loading of the trailer, just loading them up, taking them out of their sections. You start out at a few hours to where it's 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes to load them all and be done.
You got to put the time in to get to, at the end, they're well-oiled machines, but
Yes.
you have to put that work in. So these birds, okay, so you're taking from the start of March, correct?
Yeah, I prefer like the middle of March to get at the birds. Yeah.
So birds come in middle of March till the when? When's the cutoff?
Middle of June
Middle of
with
June.
replacements that we try to be done with.
So in that time, you're obviously quarantining, you're teaching them the section in and out, in and out. And at that point in between, so in May, there's pigeons that are actually outside without a net.
Correct.
Okay. Those birds, you give them how much time per day?
In the beginning they're out 2-3 hours.
Okay.
I just want to keep them happy, and there's no forced flying at this time. Sometimes they do get up and go, but I'm not a big fan of brooming pigeons at this stage.
And for guys wondering what he means by brooming is getting them up. Come on, hop, hop. You don't push them. You let
No.
them just be them.
Yes.
If they want to go up and play, they can play.
Yes.
If they don't,
And there's reasons for that. It's the same thing with the feed. They got to be on a scheduled feeding, not too much, but enough, because they need that for their growth. And then once you get into the pulling flights, it has to be done to where you're giving them everything they need for those flights to come in properly.
okay. So let's get to that point. Birds are all come in. Birds from middle of March till June. You're coming in. Everything's looking good.
Yes.
Can we go inside? We'll
Yeah.
talk about the next step, but let's go in and look at the loft, and I'll ask you some more questions here at the Royal Cup with John Timmerman. Okay, so wow. First thing I like. Beautiful, nice, good size, great air.
Yes.
A little darker loft than I thought,
Correct.
but very, very nice. For you guys to see, lots of air can go up.
Correct.
The bottom, nothing but air. There's no draft in here.
No draft.
No, and guys, there's always a light breeze here. I like you got the plastic.
Well, because we face to the west,
Okay.
so there's always later in the day. I mean, here in San Diego, we get that wind off the ocean, and yeah, it's always a breeze.
Now these perches, you like them? Good.
Love them. Yeah.
People say, well, this is a common question I'm sure you get. Well, how do you catch the pigeons? How do you do this with the high ceiling?
I have nets, but preferably we don't like to grab pigeons once they're in. We don't examine the birds unless there's a fault. We don't know the pigeons, and we purposely keep it that way. If I grab a pigeon, it's just to see if the weight's good or if there's some canker issues. That's pretty much it. But other than that, no, we don't examine the birds or, oh, this is a good one. No, you just don't do that.
Right. If you see a bird humped up on the corner, you pick them up. Now you pull them out. Now you're looking at them. If there's a problem.
Correct. Correct.
And I like this. You make it comfortable for the pigeons. The air, the room, the perches, very, very nice. This type of a loft, this type of a section, how often do you got to really clean it?
Well, you got to clean the top of the feeders.
Okay.
You do that every second day. And again, sometimes I prefer to have the build up because you want to see what's going on in the loft. You want to see if there's any issues.
Right. So you look on the top of the feeders to see how the droppings are looking.
Yeah.
But again, you've done this a long time. I know. I'm sure I can put you in a section of 100 pigeons, and you can see quite quickly.
Of course. Yes.
Who's on, who's off, if there's a problem. Okay. So you talked about birds are going out. You're not forcing them. You're not flagging them, grooming them. You're letting them be them. Now you talk about there's another step to this where you're going to pull flights on these pigeons.
Yes.
Okay. So for people that don't understand, why in the hell are you pulling flights?
Well, when you get to the final in the Derby, everybody would love a full wing.
Okay.
And we do our best to do that, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way because pigeons come in and they might be a little later, or the pigeons were stressed. For whatever reason, sometimes they don't drop 2 flights. We make it a rule, you know, to always make sure that the pigeons have dropped 2 flights before I pull. Now,
So the
we cut, you know, if the pigeons, you know, we know at an early age. I mean, normally the process we cut and then we pull. 10 days later, sometimes I already start cutting way ahead to make sure that the flights are dry. And that's where sometimes if these pigeons are too strong on the wing, I'll handicap them a little bit more. I don't want these pigeons skyrocketing doing half hour. There's no need for that. That will all come in time. The basics right now is just health. Health is what you're looking for. The principles of they got to respond to what you do.
Okay,
It's really simple.
So in June, all pigeons, it's in the June time. It's when you're going to start cutting, correct? Or before that?
I already starting before that.
Before that.
Yeah.
So you'll catch them. You cut what you're going to cut. If they
Yes.
drop more than 2 flights, you'll cut what, the 9th and the 10th?
9th, 10th, sometimes the 8th, 9th, and 10th. If and when it gets time to pull, if those birds were not cut, and let's say I'm trying to buy time for those younger pigeons.
Okay.
If all of a sudden, because when it starts warming up, sometimes these pigeons they'll drop 2 flights on you, and now you're ready to go. So I will then boom pull, or I'll just pull the 9th, just to make sure that I'm kind of covered. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, and of course I understand people do get upset, but I've been in it too long that you pull too fast, you'll screw up the 9th, or you'll screw up the 10th, and then the birds really handicap.
Okay.
We're messing with nature. A lot of times, we're progressing the molt, but sometimes natural is really the best.
All right. So guys send the birds. They're going to have possible 2 flights pulled, possibly 3. The question is people will scratch their head and say, okay, well, you pulled these flights, so now the wings are real small. What do those pigeons do, and how long do those pigeons take to get the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th back in?
We still follow protocol, birds going in and out, trap training, taking baths, but we wait until the flights are out at least halfway before I start, or a quarter. But again, letting them out, they're not going to go far on you, but there are some that they'll get up.
Right.
You can't, it's never perfect, but what that's doing again is just giving more time for the birds to develop properly. They're not getting too heavy, and it's just a reinforcement that they know where home is.
Right.
The problem is sometimes that when the flights start getting, 3/4, if they're starting to feel good, then they want to fly. Well, then they have the possibility they'll start bleeding because they're not, they're carrying the weight and the flight's not long enough yet.
So you have a little bit of stress.
It's stress, and then that's where you, as the handler, you got to understand that. You got to see that. Hey, the bird's a little too heavy. Back off on the feed. But you got to remember the birds are going, starting in July. Hopefully, sometimes it's middle of July, end of July. They're going to start falling apart in the body mold. So you want to make sure that you're giving all the right nutrition for the feathering to come in good.
Okay. So you're pulling the flights. It takes 5-6 weeks to come in.
Yes.
Okay. You're not pushing them at that point. You still go in and out every day. They have their baths. You allow them to be pigeons.
Correct.
And still develop and still grow. Not worrying, just developing. I wanted to also point out, as we talked about in the quarantine loft, you had them on torpedo drinkers or bullet drinkers.
Mm-hmm. Now we're on automatics.
Yeah. So these are your automatic drinkers. Yeah. There you see it. So automatic drinkers, you change them.
We'll change them depending on what kind of vitamin or probiotic. It just depends. Sometimes they're 2 days, sometimes daily, sometimes 3 days.
And pigeons come in here to take a drink, and you just top it up, fresh water.
Yes, fresh water.
And hey, very, very simple idea. Great idea. A lot better than torpedoes.
Well, what this does is the birds always have water, but it's a process sometimes to get them to drink and to learn. For whatever reason, years vary. Some pigeons are just dumb. Some pigeons pick up real quick.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the less pigeons you have in it, they find it faster. They're following each other. You get a little bit, you know, we start getting busy with more and more birds. Well, they don't always grasp. They don't catch it.
And guys, as you see, this drinker's off the ground, 2.5, 3 feet almost. It's up about where your kneecap is on the ground. So the pigeon's got to go to it. But this is why you don't send a little baby 100%. You want them to have
Well,
able to get up, down, no problem.
yeah, you want to be able to teach them, and that's why these pigeons come here and they'll be isolated for another 4 or 5 days. I'm just ensuring now, instead of the 1 week of coming out of the box, now you're 2 weeks of coming out of the box and making sure your bird's healthy.
That's right.
It's there's no guarantees with young pigeons. Young pigeons, anything can happen. It's not so much the quality of the pigeon or the shots. Sometimes it's just the environment. If all of a sudden we get a high humidity, you're gonna run into problems, and you're gonna have to know what to do.
And we're even thinking about this. You can have a pigeon that's dropped 4 or 5 flights. You take him right out of the box, put him in here. It looks like an old bird already, right?
Yes.
But you put him in here, and he can't figure out there, and he's been in a box for 4 or 5 days. That's downhill.
Correct. That's why I do what I do. Not saying what anybody does is wrong. It's just what I do. I mean, by me putting them in a quarantine, I'm just making sure that there's no other issues, not just for that bird, but for now the other 800 that are in the loft. I can't open up a can of worms. It's, you're coming into the house and you need all your shots. If they're not, then you can't join. I mean, I'm just saying that figuratively. You can't be part of the group. Yeah, everybody's got to be on the same program.
And as you guys see, ventilation still through the roof. You see a little bit of webs moving, good airflow, no draft in here.
Well, we put screen on the back and that goes. I mean, I would, I learned from a terrific handler, Kenny Kelly, that like in Texas, their lofts were off the ground and they had like a 2 feet perimeter around so that draft would not come in and hit the birds directly. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that can always be better. There's always things that could be worse, but you always want fresh air.
That's the trick, especially with this many pigeons.
Yes, for the birds, but for yourself as well.
100%.
So
this whole loft is laid out the same way?
Yes.
I mean, we could walk through it, but it's just repetitive.
Correct.
They're all the same perches, all the same drinkers.
Everything's the same.
Everything's the same.
Everything's the same.
Well, at night, pigeons can stay in the hallway, or they all get shut. The hallways are clear.
Everybody, we come in at night, which is my other person, James. He's the pit bull on the property. He makes sure that everybody's spread out properly and no birds are out and all that stuff, because we've been here all day. So things do happen. Birds come in later in the afternoon. Birds, when we start flying, 2,000-3,000 pigeons, birds, you never know what's going to happen.
Okay. So can we go over to where your clocking is? So running the benzene.
Correct.
How many does this one hold?
These are the new clocks where they only had 5 or 6 issued. They hold 3,000 birds per clock. Now, mind you, we've never reached that here in the Royal Cup, and I don't think I ever want to reach that.
No.
It's, hey, don't get me wrong, I love the pigeons, but doing it for so long, you have to do it to where it's manageable. And I'm talking for a 2-3 man crew. And you want to just, you just want to make sure you get good pigeons going and you're able to accommodate and they're all looked after. And for us, that's, 1,500 pigeons, 1,000 pigeons per group. That's what we want.
Okay. Over here, you've got some products that you use.
Yes. Tolleson, Bayers. I mean, those seem to be, those are the main ones. Tolleson, nobody knew about Tolleson 3-4 years ago, but I believe Kelly Ward now brings it in. And my favorite used to be the Bird Supply in Florida, Leslie, just a fantastic person. And they are the distributors of these products. I think, I believe Foy's, and there's a few others, but the main ones, if I have to go to, are those, the 2 that I mentioned.
And we're not going to go through all of this. We don't have to. I'm giving you guys you don't mind if I do this, just a little look.
No. The Bayer's products are awesome. I mean, they are truly, anybody that's been to Bayer's, they've got a clean operation. They got a clean system. You go to any of the shows, which I mean, of course, I'm saying that. I'm saying that I haven't been there for a few years now, but Bayer's has always been one of the biggest displays. So they're worldwide.
And these products, okay, so we just come out of the quarantine. They're in the lofts. You give them a lot of products. What do you have them on?
To be honest,
in the water.
In the old days, like I said, if there was an issue, they'd be on a Dino, or they would be on a 4-in-1. Now, no, I try to stay away from everything. It's, I was taught this as a kid that the dirtier the lofts, the weaker ones will drop.
That is true. 100%.
So, I had a good friend. Well, he was more of McQueen's, but he ran a great race, Steve Sturchy, and we're talking 17 years ago. And he says, because in the beginning when we did numbers, I don't really lose a lot of pigeons, and a lot of it is because how I do things. And again, I'm not saying, hey, this is just what I do, but Steve asked me, he says, I don't get it. He says, how come you don't lose pigeons? And I said, well, let me ask you, what do you do? I said, do you bleach the lofts? He said, yes. I said, how often? Every day? I said, pretty much. So there's your problem. So the pigeons have to build an immunity. And old school guys know this. Yeah. It's just a fact. You talk to my friend John Stevens, and he flies a deep litter, which is the frickin' most awful thing in the world. I mean, that's why I got my respiratory problem. But for the pigeons, it's the best. And I say that because I visited John when he used to live in LA.
And it's the same 100% like Patrick Books. He does not scrape the loft. It's dry litter. And he said, wasting time scraping.
Yeah.
But you get it. I get it. Okay, continue
on.
Well,
we do. When I get into the racing, I want everything, fine tuned, and it's better. I don't want to take a chance that we got pigeon flies or anything like that. But again, all that stuff, it's an environment. It comes into play when, the weather's changing here, but Florida, the humidity is, 60, 70, 80%. They are going to deal with a lot more health issues than I am. But then on the flip side, I am, when it comes to racing, am going to be dealing with a very, very low humidity. Not really going to find your problems with E. coli. You're going to find your problems with birds not having enough, not being hydrated enough to race because of the dry conditions.
Okay. So, for it, you're not going to go out there and just medicate these pigeons.
No, this is all this stuff. In fact, some of these are already a few years old. Doing a race, I want everything on hand, especially the main antibiotics, because you don't know what you're going to run into. You don't know the availability, especially if they're imports. So you just got to have it. Things are scarce. Things are getting harder and harder to get. I have brought on products from Mexico. Fantastic, because as Mexico progresses with their pigeon racing, they are exceeding for sure what we do here in the States. But the restrictions of how they test and all that, they don't have that like we do. And I mean, here in the States, getting just a product like LS50, which is a respiratory problem, is it even obtainable anymore? A lot of places, no. Sometimes you can find it, but you can't find it.
Okay. So, not heavy on the medicating. I get that. You watch the pigeons. If there's a pigeon with a problem, will you take them right out of the loft?
Yeah, they're isolated right off the bat.
And where do they go? Back to the
Depends. Bottom? Over there in the California, I have Sputniks, and they'll go into that. And then for the Royal, I'll set something up. I do on the end. I have we call it ICU.
Yeah.
And they'll go there and hang out until they're feeling better. And if they really have an issue, I'm not going to hold on to them.
Okay. So birds flights come in. And at that point now, you're at what point in the season? You're about beginning of August? No, you're middle of July.
Yeah, flights are coming in the second week of July. They should be 4 or 5 weeks. If I'm pulling already the 10th to the 15th, then 4 weeks, 5 weeks later, they're already, birds are out. It's such a fast process. 2-3 weeks, birds are getting broomed, flagging.
So you do start to.
I give them a week, feeds a cut, and then I got to push a little bit.
Okay.
Not hard, but yes, we got to push a little bit to get them up. And usually I could get them up in a week. Are they flying fantastic? No. But when you have, 2,000-3,000 pigeons, then I just put them on a trailer and they'll be on the property for.
So let's go and take a look at your trailer. Again, guys, we are at the Royal Cup here in San Diego, California. So very lucky you have two transports.
Correct.
So this one here, you haul both races with both?
Yeah, in the beginning, if we need two trailers, we do it. I mean, people have to understand that you bring in, let's say, just 100 pigeons. You're not going to have 100 left for training. It's anywhere from 5 to 10%, and that's if you're good. There's no freaking way anybody's going to lose only 20 pigeons. It doesn't work that way. You ask any guy that races pigeons, big competition, what they start with, and what they're ready to start racing with, and what they have at the end. Now, I don't know how, so many of these guys have become instant professionals overnight, but in reality, if you have 100 pigeons and you get to where you want to start training or loft fly, you're going to lose 15.
Okay.
10. You're fantastic if you lose 5. Not saying it can't be done, but highly unrealistic.
Yeah. And at the end of the season, what are you left with? If you play all the races.
Over here, yeah, our percentages are down. I mean, I've had good races, but still, we don't get them all back. I'll just leave it at that.
And you guys are going to see the terrain just at the beginning of what John has to go through with the California Classic and the Royal Cup. Now, this transporter here, is this all open one level?
Yes.
Both sides, all communal?
Yes.
Okay, and they can go out on both sides or one side?
I could go both sides.
Okay.
But I mean, it gets to the point where I drop it. On the other trailer, I have a quick release where they all could go open, which I have for this as well. But a lot of pigeons could get injured right from the beginning. So I just drop them, boom, the wave goes out. I just drop, and they go. And when the birds are dialed in, they just go. Unless there's a falcon nearby, then they do stupid stuff.
Now, guys will say, okay, do you hand basket them? How do you basket these pigeons? How do you get them into this transporter?
Well, we load them through here. We come through a chute. These open. So the birds, they get educated coming through here to fly in and fly out. Once we get to the training spot, we start ready to train. We back up the trailer. We'll leave them in there 24 hours or 10 hours, just so they don't get stressed.
So beginning, first few times, you let them sit 10, 12 hours or overnight maybe?
Overnight. We do I'll load them up at 7 o'clock and then I'll release 7 o'clock the next morning.
So give them a little bit of time to feel it, to understand it. Now, the question I'm going to ask, does this transporter have water on it?
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, and there's enough water.
Yeah, it's enough for me and them and for the truck.
People might ask, you put anything in that?
Not really. I mean, I don't use it much until we really get into the races. When you get into the racing training, especially with the way we could load these birds as quickly as we do when we start getting going, the birds are they're loaded up in an hour and 15 minutes. And figure an hour and a half, 2 hours after that is liberation. So there's no problem for dehydration or anything.
Okay.
Years ago is a different issue, but technology has changed and the process of everything has changed. Years ago, I mean, I had another trailer, everything was by hand, and that was a job. But in today's world, it's changed.
Okay, so these pigeons, you load them the first few times to spend the night. You taking them a lot of short tosses?
A lot of short tosses.
And for guys wondering, when he means a lot, you're not talking about like a week of it. You're talking anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks of really short.
I start middle of August.
Okay. Road training.
And by the time I'm 20 miles, 22 miles, it's but that's flying the course and through, like I mentioned before, as a handler in competition with the guys. There was a few gentlemen within 2 all talking 5,000 peak, 5,000 elevation and peaks. It's just the valleys. We're right here. We're at about 1,200, 1,000 elevation.
Well, John, we're going to give the viewers, we're going to give them a little bit later on, just so they can see what you have to deal with, more what the birds from all over, from all different parts of America, Canada, have to deal with.
Well,
And
that's
it's intimidating when you're not used to seeing it. For you,
oh, it's intimidating. It's intimidating when the weather changes. Like right now, we got a day, not much wind, but when you start getting into uh, monsoon weather and you're up in the mountains and it's black, crazy, yeah. Then the 2 days later, you got Santa Ana winds where those winds are just, you know, yes, this area here, it's all fire zone. You know, it's we're in the hills, we're in the mountains. We're San Diego, but I'm on the outskirts, and that's maybe one of the reasons why the pigeons always tend to be exceptional, the ones that do well, because there's so much more training involved, so much more thinking that has to be done. Because if they make a mistake, a lot of times they'll continue on and they'll end up downtown, which is 20 minutes to the water. They don't come back because you're at a high elevation. They don't turn around.
okay, now for guys wondering, you've got the training going, you're getting them trained out, you've got them out to 25 miles. Then what happens to them? What's the next couple steps?
Well, we go 10-mile jumps.
Okay.
At that point, the birds have, like I said, 6 weeks of training on them by then. And then we start moving them out 30s and 40s and 50s. But then at the 40, 45, it's a transition. We're going to be going into the desert. And now you're at 3,500 elevation, and now you're going to drop into sea level. And I'm talking just car level. We're not talking the peaks. The temperature is always hotter out in the desert, and that's why I've learned this last year. I pushed the envelope. Hey, got to get going, get going. If it's not even close to what I feel is good, I'm not just going to do it, because hard-headed, you learn things sometimes the hard way. That, just like I mentioned yesterday with Gus, it's 20-mile gusts. Forget it. Don't race. It isn't every second the wind comes. Bullshit. Those winds are harsh.
Yeah.
And all of us that go through it, yeah, it's I can't speak for everybody, but it's it's Mother Nature. You don't win.
So that first activation, will they experience desert there?
Yes.
Okay.
They start experiencing desert already at 60, 70 miles.
Okay. So when they're in the desert, they come up. What do they see? They see canyons?
Yeah, they'll see the mountain range. But it's just, if we have a warmer day, a high pressure system, that means that for us, it's coming off the desert, blowing in. It's going to warm up. Like right now, this is February, and we're at 80 degrees. It's a Santa Ana condition. When you are in cold weather, 55, and it's possibly a storm coming, or you're getting winds off the ocean, that's blowing off the ocean all the way through here, blowing west, and then blowing still another 50 miles through the mountains towards the desert. That's where it's tricky, because now the pigeons, what could have been just an hour toss could turn into an hour and a half, 2 hour toss.
At what point do you do the mass liberations? For people wondering,
I usually go 75 miles. I do it because I like to be far enough out where the birds could climb and do their thing to come back home and get going.
Okay, so before then, they're going to be in smaller groups.
Smaller groups. And my groups have been bigger than what I've ever done, because in the old days, it used to be 50 birds, 70 birds. And the more, of course, the more repetition, the more you do it, they leave faster. So I will still do 20, 30, close it, open it up, close it, open it up. And just to get up to go, make their own leader.
Okay, so you do that, you get them to the activation. Now, when the activation is over, so they've done their homework. Now it's time to go to the races. In between the races, what is it? A week in between each race, correct?
For this race, yes.
Yes. For the Royal Cup, and in between the races, do you do training?
I've done both. This last year I did a toss a week, which, I do that to accommodate the breeders, but it's gone both ways, where you didn't have to do anything and you just race. You do loft line. But a tune-up is always good to have pigeons. Okay. Everybody's different. Some guys prefer an hour and a half to get them. No, they don't need it. But by that time I got so many tosses on them, all it is condition. It's where you can't, if you know you're going to have 15, 20 mile headwinds, I'm not going to let them go at 70 miles and create a 2-3 hour day. I'm just going to bump it short. And the difference is because of the elevation. You're at the desert, or you're up top where there's no wind, and they could just smooth sailing and go home.
So you're playing it by feel. You're playing it for the birds. You're playing it for the customer. You want it to be a whole win.
Yeah, because what happens, I'd much rather prefer do a 75-mile toss, 80 miles, because then it's a race and they go in. Half hours, sometimes 3. And that's an extra 3 hours more of the day that you're there. You're No, because they need a day to pull themselves together and be happy. You got to find a moderation in the birds being happy and training. And you do it, the more comfortable they get.
All right. One other question, because just literally, don't throw away California Classic. Do you let both groups out?
Yeah.
Together?
Yeah.
What? Someone's gonna say, well, what happens if my birds go over there?
It does happen. I mean, and I let the breeder know that I've had a problem. And there's always a one stinker that, will go, or two. And if it becomes too continuous, then yeah, we tell the breeder, what do you want me to do? It happens. Nothing in this game is bulletproof. Nothing. You could be the only guy by yourself 10 miles away from no civilization, and there's going to be a pigeon that traps in 5 miles or 15 miles down the road, and every day he'll go back to the other loft. Pigeons do that. Okay. It's just there's this, at a dialect that, yeah. That's why I did what I did. But by doing that, then they follow me. So.
Okay. So does each loft have 2 different calls, or the same call when you're calling them in?
They got the same call.
Okay. They got the same call. All right. That's just what I'm asking. But I get what you mean by the dialect.
Yeah.
The whistle makes it the same.
Yes.
Okay.
The birds know, the pigeons are smart. They know where they got to belong. It's the same thing. We have 2 entrances over there. And a lot of it, when we go over there, it'll show it's an antique loft. That's how it used to be.
Well,
It was the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's, over time, I could modify it and make it fancy and do a lot of things, but that's what we started with. And I just keep it.
This has been a great loft tour. Very nice setup, great environment. I can feel your professionalism. Is there anything else you want to say to people watching this that have never tried this?
Enjoy the sport. If you're up for the challenge, yeah, try it. There's so many positives in San Diego. Maybe the California is, and vice versa. It is true. There are some guys that do better in this loft, and they'll do different in the other loft. Some of it's the loft. That's why I bring it back. What do we really know? One loft faces the west, the other loft faces the northeast with the sun. This loft here acts like a dark system. I've said it many times. Totally different with liberation. They all get up and go. Those guys there, no, you got some that are firecrackers, and you have others that just play around, but they're happy. That's the end. As long as they're happy and they respond the way they're supposed to respond.
And I will say to people watching this, if you do participate and you want to mark it down on your calendar, just go on the Royal Cup website, go on the San Diego Classic website, take a look at what they have to offer you guys. It's a great destination. For the time, showing the guests, and another good year. You're doing a hell of a good job.
Well, thank you.
One of the best handlers, One Loft Races in the world. And if someone in the world's watching, to hire him, it's only $2 million a year. I'm John Timmerman, guys. I'm Ryan Feathers, Elite Pigeon Auctions. Like, share, and subscribe.
Hey guys, Ryan, Feathers Elite Pigeon Auctions. We hope you enjoyed that amazing loft tour. Please, a reminder to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Until the next loft tour, thanks for flying with me. Bye for now.